I'm joined today by Jim Ginder. He is our health education specialist at the health department, but little do many people know, he is also the only certified psychological autopsy investigator in the state of Indiana. Jim, tell us what that means.
Great. So thanks for letting me talk about this program that we have. So what a psychological autopsy investigator does is what we do is after a person takes their life via suicide or drug overdose, the coroner does their part of the investigation where they're looking at the cause of death, they're looking at crime scene images, all that type of stuff. What I do is I do more of the behavior investigation. So what that means is after somebody takes their life via suicide or overdose, usually about 3 months after the event happened, I contact the deceased's family, friends, and what we do is we set up a meeting and we just talk. What I'm looking for is I'm looking for the behavioral side of why we think they took their life via overdose or via suicide as well too. And what's interesting is the data that I collect can actually assist with the coroner's investigation, and also the data that we collect also helps in education and prevention. So either some of the programs that we do in our school systems or educating our EMS and fire about what are some things that happened at the scene that the family members may have heard that they probably shouldn't have heard as well too. So we do that a lot as well too. Also, some of the data that we collect as well too helps us look to see what are some other things that we could do, such as was this person unfortunately dropped through the cracks? Did they have significant mental health illness that maybe nobody knew? Or let's say they went to a healthcare provider and the healthcare provider maybe did not assess them for mental health illness and they had a mental health illness or a substance abuse disorder. And basically all I do is it's about an hour and a half meeting with a loved one, and basically we just sit and talk. My first comment is, so tell me about your loved one. And I always use that person's name. And basically what I do is I just let them talk. What I'm looking for is I'm looking for key information. Do they have a history of mental health illness? Do they have a history of substance abuse disorder? And I just kind of go there. We have some paperwork, of course, we fill out. So if we're doing a suicide, there's about 40 pages of questions that we ask. And usually I don't have to ask those questions because once I get that family member talking, they answer them for me. So it's not me like drilling them with questions. It's them just talking about their loved one and how great their loved one was.
It sounds in some ways that it's kind of cathartic for those family members.
So it is. So I can tell you I've been doing this for a while now, and I really think it helps them maybe close that case for them, or I shouldn't say their case, but put another layer of closure that me as someone who doesn't know their loved one is very interested in their loved one. So I want to know them. I want to know who they were. I want to know where they went to college or what kind of job they had or who were they had a relationship with, all that type stuff, because it's going to help me figure out is there something that's underlying that maybe the coroner's office didn't find out. Because unfortunately, we know during when the coroner's office is involved, it's immediate and there's a lot of stuff going through the family member's head at that specific time. With me, they've had some time to process everything, and we kind of go back and start thinking about some stuff. We talk about as early as they want to up to the day they passed away. And what's very kind of interesting about me doing these autopsies is I have a really good working relationship with the coroner's office, so I can go over and talk to them and get a background of that person who passed away before we actually meet with the family. So I kind of know what's going on. I can see the questions and the answers that the coroners have asked. So I know if something is kind of questionable, I may be able to re-ask that question and maybe get a better answer because it's been that 3-month time period and that family member has been able to process that death of their loved one.
There tend to be stigmas around drug overdoses and suicides as well, and it's very difficult, I think, sometimes to offer the same kind of support or condolences that you would normally do in any other situation. So what have you learned from this that you are able to share with others in terms of reaching out to families who've lost a loved one in this manner?
And I think that's a great question. And with all the autopsies, the psychological autopsies I've done, a lot of people blame themselves. And a lot of people say that they've enabled their loved ones. And that's not true at all. Um, when you talk about suicide and overdose, there's no blame. Unfortunately, that person at that specific time was in crisis. And for some reason, their brain was just so overwhelmed that their brain started to shut down. And when a brain shuts down, that's kind of the only option that the brain has is I have to shut down instead of, hey, let's step back, let's reset, and let's move on or get the help that they need. But a lot of times when a person takes their life via suicide or with drug overdose, their brain just is so overwhelmed that their brain just can't function and the brain just shuts down. And that's
Well, then let's talk about that, because we are only less than a couple weeks away from Christmas holiday, and this is a stressful time of year normally. Add that with to the fact that COVID has, ravaged us for the last 9 months. What if you're feeling desperate right now? What if you're feeling like you just can't continue? What are your options?
Right, and I'm so happy you brought that up because again, I agree with you 100%. Besides everything else, I've also been doing some COVID testing and just I had a client a few weeks ago that I gave a positive test to, and she's like, "Am I gonna die?" And that's really hard to tell somebody. Everything's gonna be okay. We just take one day at a time. And I would just tell everybody, if you feel that you need to talk to somebody, or if you're in crisis, or if you're just overwhelmed, there's some numbers that you can call out there. If you're in immediate danger, please, please, please call my friends at the Sheriff's Department or your local police agency at 911. They have officers out there that are trained in crisis intervention. They're awesome. They're friends of mine. That's one resource. Another resource is always 211. And they will connect you with a great program we have here in Indiana called Be Healthy. Then also we have the suicide hotline number, which all these are manned 24 hours a day. And the number to the National Suicide Hotline is 1-800-273-8255. So there's so many great resources. Here locally, you can always call Aspire Health Indiana. They have a crisis number as well too. Community North also has a crisis number as well too. So there's so many great resources out there, and please, please, please take advantage of those resources if you feel that you're in crisis.
Awesome. Jim Ginder, thank you so much for the work that you're doing with the psychological autopsies. We're anxious to hear more about this, the more that you do, and to see if there's anything that we can all learn from you through the work that you're doing. So thank you.
You're welcome. Stay safe, everyone.